Started. Good morning, everyone, and welcome. This is Joe Scarice, live from Clubhouse, live from our podcast, Creative Birth Strategies, co-founder and co-host of this every weekend educational portal for our real estate professional followers. So I'm pretty excited about this morning. Calling in from Boston, Massachusetts at the NAR Realtor Convention. So we'll get started here in just a few minutes. Just getting myself plugged in. Get everything out there in front of everybody, which is a really exciting week. The market has been going wild. It's been, to say the least, an interesting week post political elections. Still sifting all that out right now, but it looks like Senate, the House, governors, and the White House is gone red. The blue collar individual has spoken, I guess, in the sense of frustration with the economy and inflation and concerns with crime. And I guess this is reset. So we'll see how this all shakes out. A lot of moving parts on the market. The market rallied over 1,500 points. It was quite eventful. The Fed came in and lowered the rate about a quarter point, made some moderation to the base rate of the 30-year, dropped below 7%, around 6.92. Our base rate and the commercial rate started around 6.375 at this point. So we're probably going to see another quarter point drop in the rate. Not as much activity, I don't think, with the Fed, but I really do think we're going to see probably a quarter to a half a point fluctuation in the market over the next 6 months as we kind of come into the new political parties controlling the different departments. So it'll be interesting to see how this shakes out. But I don't think we're going to get below 6. I think we're going to average out around 6-ish as a market as a whole. I'm already seeing a different type of discussion post-election here at the NAR Expo. So I'll be calling in live from the Expo tomorrow, calling in from my hotel this morning. So it's not that loud, but we'll be live at the Boston Convention Center, which I'm pretty excited about as well. So I'm a co-host and co-founder of the Creative Birth Strategies podcast here. We're here every Saturday morning and Sunday morning. Starting after next weekend, we will be going only Sundays at 9 a.m. We will not be doing the Saturdays anymore. We're going to be looking at more one-on-ones following that throughout the week, or part of our mastermind as well. So it's been a great run on doing Saturdays and Sundays, but we're going to bring it down to Sundays, 9 o'clock. If we go to 11, that's great. If we stick to just 9 to 10, 10:30, that's great too. But we'll have very powerful discussions every Sunday morning, 9 a.m. post November 17th. So pretty excited about that. So let's get into thanking our sponsors first. I'd like to thank Ms. Linda Pelagas of Realty 411, which provides national real estate events throughout the country, as well as a national publication for real estate services and professionals. I'd like to thank MB Capital, your unsecured business line of credit program that provides unsecured business lines for real estate professionals nationwide, where I'm a referral partner. Love to get you set up as a referral partner. Love to get you set up for unsecured business lines of credit. Let me know if I could be of any assistance on that. I'd like to thank Lenmark Capital. Lenmark Capital is an asset-based lender nationwide. We provide DSCR, fixed to rent, fixed to flip, new construction, multifamily, mixed use, and blanket loan portfolio loans. Any questions in regards to that, please let me know, and I'll be more than happy to sit down and provide advisory and strategy in your real estate portfolio growth. And I'd like to thank Mr. Yardell Perkins of Perkatech, who's our social media architect and pretty much the wizard behind the drape here. He provides us all the social media video work, website design. He's great with real estate investors trying to start up meetups and events like that, so he can help you set all that up and put that in coordination. So reach out to him, Mr. Yardell Perkins of Perkatech. Now we're going to dive into our discussion this morning, which I think, I think it's kind of perfect fitting. Real estate business challenges. Will you adapt or stay traditional? In the evolving landscape of real estate, adapting versus staying traditional is a defining question. The decision depends on business goals, target audience, and adaptability to change. We're going to break down some pros and cons to approach specific challenges. Okay, leveraging technology for efficiency, and the challenge is adapting to new technology, like what I'm going through right now with my social media transition. It's very challenging because I'm just not accustomed to it. That's why I have Yardell working along with me in parallel. And then there's a solution, starting by integrating tech that delivers quick wins, CRM systems, lead management, or digital marketing tools for outreach. So I'll tell you a little bit what we're doing. We're scraping my LinkedIn profiles. We're scraping my Facebook profiles. And then we're setting up a Google business profile, a whole revamp there, and then we're tying it back into video work, which we have a lot of video content. We're going to tie that back into TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube, and kind of round the wagons. But that takes work. Like I created a lot of stuff, and now it kind of makes a lot of sense to kind of circle the wagons and get things working again correctly. So I'm going through my own transition in social media. There's a lot of challenges. If you want to have a discussion about it just to see what makes sense for you, let me know. And then offering hybrid or flexible solutions. Like rising demand for co-living arrangements and mid-term rentals. It sounds good, but our lenders are going to take that on. Okay, to traditional lender, whether it's traditional or asset-based lending, they want to see a lease. Getting creative. You still need a master lease for anything creative for renting a property. So you got to, have that conversation with your lender, making sure you're on the same page before you submit anything. Data-driven decision making, like access to quality data. Like we just bought the data for the NAR Expo. We thought we got a good database, right? 3,000 bounce backs out of 15,000 people. No big surprise, but it only cost us $250. Okay, so we spent $250 for like 8,000 leads with a 50% open rate. That's not bad. So if you get one lead out of it, $250 is not bad. Buying databases, data leads is not the worst thing to do, but you just know what you're spending on and expect. You always underestimate what you're going to get. Maybe the traditional maintaining stability, stay in touch in client relationships and personalized service. There's no easy button in our business. None. I haven't been able to find one. I've been looking for it for a long time. There's no easy button. You just can't buy leads and do cold calls and hope business is going to go great. You got to be out there meeting and greeting and networking with people. Creating solutions for that, having deeper discussions. The type of discussions I've had over the last 48 hours, whether it's what's the strategy now, what are we trying to do over the next 6 months, what are we doing over the next year, what do you think rates are going to look like, what LTV should I go at, should I take a bridge loan instead of a DSCR loan, should I take a DSCR loan instead of a bridge loan? These are deep discussions that people want to know. They want somebody to have confidence in giving them a clear picture. Maybe not the clear answer, but like a clear picture for them to make their decision making. And being very consistent and reliable with your, like, I've been firing more clients because the fact is they're not reliable. If they're not reliable in the initial engagement, can you imagine when I order an appraisal and everything else, I can't even get them to send me an application. This is not the time to chase people down. This is the time to decide who you want to work with and who you want to grow with. And letting somebody go is not, you're not losing anything if there was nothing there in the first place. I mean, I had to let a couple clients go this week. I'm like, listen, you haven't been responsive for a week. I'm a little nervous. When I feel like I got to walk across the room barefooted with on broken glass, that's not somebody I want to work with. If it's a painful experience, I really think we shouldn't be working together. I think you know what. I think you need to find somebody else to work with. Well, that's really unfortunate. Well, I know that's unfortunate, but at the end of the day, I want to keep my sanity, and I'm not going to stress out. So you gotta stick to your guns. If somebody doesn't make you feel comfortable working with them, it's not going to get any easier. So for the competitive edge, it often is best to adapt to a blended approach of remaining rooted in traditional values like strong client relationships, while selectively integrating modern patterns and tech solutions. Balancing adaptation and tradition is crucial to thrive in today's real estate market, especially in competitive areas. Like I would have never thought about doing the NAR Realtor Expo till a couple months ago. And guess what? I'm the only asset-based lender here at the convention. I'm the only one that can fail at what I'm doing. Good morning, Amy. Welcome. Brief overview, who you are, what you do, and thoughts to real estate business challenges. Will you adapt or stay traditional? Amy?
No, been a while.
I know.
I'm Amy Palvido. I am the chair of the U.S. PropTech Council, which is the Real Estate Technology Association in the United States. I'm also a PropTech founder. I created a digital twin platform, serves the commercial real estate industry. And if you don't know what a digital twin is, basically we make a of your building in a computer system, which helps your buildings better. And I'm a longtime real estate investor since 2008. And before that, I was a general contractor. So I've been in commercial real estate for 21 years. Talking about will you adapt or stay traditional? Since I've been doing commercial real estate for a long time, like Joe. Joe's been doing it a long time too. We've adapted several times.
Yes, ma'am.
I don't think you can stay traditional. And especially now with the advent of AI, you really honestly have no choice. You can stay traditional if you're only going to do, like, say, a couple of properties a year, and that's totally fine for you. And you just want to invest in two or three, and you can stay traditional, and that's fine. You can manage a certain amount of properties by yourself. I did it. I did that back in 2008. I had 8, 9 single family homes, and I did it all by myself, and I did everything via paper. I didn't have the option of doing anything different, but that's all I had. But I would say if I was going to do that today, I would use as much technology as possible to make it easier on myself than to do what I did back in 2008. Because you can. I mean, it's not something that's burdensome from a cost perspective. There's a lot of free resources you can use, or very cheap resources you can use. You can teach GPT to do underwriting for you. I mean, with AI and where AI is going, you can teach it to do certain things that current SaaS platforms do now. And you don't have to pay a whole lot for it. You just have to teach it what you want. And I will say, as far as the marketing goes, there's lots of more new tech coming out now where, it used to be the day where the only way you collect an email from somebody who visited your website is they actually had to fill out your contact form. Well, that does not what you have to do today. They just have to click on your on your website. And if they're visiting your website, you can capture their email address. You can capture their contact information. I mean, there's things that are available. You are not as anonymous as you thought you were on the web. So there's the ability to scrape who's visiting your website without, so then you capture more leads that way. So they're not dependent upon somebody actually clicking through. Obviously, you want to have them opt in later, but you can at least reach out to them because they chose to visit your website. So there's ways to do a lot of things with the new technologies that are out there now to help your business and automate a lot of stuff. I mean, that's what the goal is anyway, is to automate. So I will always adapt. That's just kind of who I am. But I will pay homage to the one traditional thing I think I'll keep, Joe, is the networking thing. I don't think that ever goes away. I think business is always, relationships with people. But you can use technology to help foster and nurture those relationships more effectively now. But I always think networking is going to be the thing for sure.
Yeah, I mean, and it's funny, Amy. We have a couple individuals that work at our company, and they want to buy leads, and they want to do data dumps, and they want to call buyers that bought a property in the last 90 days in an LLC cold. But you know what? By being connected social media wise, and then meeting that person in person, I mean, it's a win. Oh my gosh, I see all your postings, really interesting stuff. It helps the conversation, or it warms up a conversation that was once cold, right? and re-warms it up. I've rekindled relationships in the past 5 years that might have gone one way or another. You know what I mean? And I think because of my social media presence, there's been I feel like there's a humbling resetting with some of these people that I get to re-meet in a networking and atmosphere. So I don't disagree with you, and that's why I am now supporting and sponsoring as many events in the creative space, regionally, and going to various places throughout the country. I'll be traveling a little more in the new year. I'm making some plans of going more regional, national. I'm very calculated about it, but there's nothing like meeting somebody in person. Nothing like sponsoring an event, but not being taken advantage of either. 'Cause, Amy, as you know, some of these places they want you to $1,000 for 5 minutes of time, and I'm like, yeah, yeah, no, I'm like, I had a guy actually text me. He goes, Joe, I know you have a large network. How many people do you think you can attract to an event of mine? I'm like, I don't really know this guy that well, but it was going like in an insulting direction. And I'm saying to myself, listen, you emailed me, text me. I said, you're not reversing this. I said, listen, if you want me to sponsor your event from a promotional perspective, one, I get 10 to 15 minutes. And two, you need to be a little more respectful when you reach out to somebody. Why don't you just give them a call instead of a very cold text? And he's like, oh,
it's an age thing, though. It's just FYI. He's probably young. I mean,
he is.
Texting is calling. It's a thing.
Oh, really? Okay, because I know.
It's a generational thing.
Yeah. Okay. I just want to make sure I didn't miss something. Okay. He didn't Instagram me. Is that a good? So we're not friends. We're not besties. If he Instagrammed me. That's just like texting now, and it's like, I mean, it is kind of a cultural shift between generations. Yeah. And for them, that is normal, commonplace. That's how they reach out to people. Well, yeah, it's really kind of. You know how I battled that? I will also say too that I'll hop in. Yeah. I think I think when you start building up a social media presence, to your point, you become an influencer, and it is an influencer economy now. And so if you, I mean, I will say I've gained more traction starting the pet council, the community itself, and that provides you certain advantages when you do create communities. And I think it's going to turn into like a community economy at some point, or you're going to need to, as part of your business, if you're being strategic, create some sort of community, because it just helps you. I mean, if you're giving back in some sort of way, or you're providing value like you do on your social media, and you're creating this following or community, that is going to become a strategic business strategy for anybody, right? Yeah. And it's gonna help you, because you're obviously paying it forward first. You're providing value first, and people really respect that. Yeah. So. No, I appreciate that. I went silent on the guy. If it made you feel any better, I'm like, listen, I can't. I mean, I'm like, he's insulting me and asking for my help at the same time, and I'm like, nah, I'm going to move on from this, and good luck with your event and whatever. Yeah. It's okay. Yeah, well, he needs to learn too. It's a cultural thing, and he needs to approach people differently. Yeah, so he needs to do that too. Yeah, it's okay. Yeah, it's all right. So, I mean, what are the challenges? What challenges do we have to overcome in real estate? How do we change our models to have breakthrough barriers? Real estate breakthrough barriers typically involve a combination of market awareness, agility. As Amy and I were saying, you got to be a chameleon, right? And client-centered innovation. Some very common challenges that agents and investors face in the industry, and how shifting business models can overcome them. Market volatility and unpredictability. I mean, we're not out of the woods yet. Just because of whatever happened, and if you feel like you're on one side or the other, we're still in for a rocky road, commercially, office, retail wise. And we're definitely in for something on the residential side. How severe or what type of landing we have is yet to be seen. The realtors that I've met over the last day and a half at the convention have been optimistic. They're hard nosed. They're very engaged, And most of them that I've met are now investors as well because they see the light. They know they need to control their destiny as a licensed agent. They know they can't depend on the consumer or the direct investor. They know they have to take on this business themselves and balancing out the quality service along with controlling their destiny in sales. And competing in saturated markets at sometimes. Okay, and we have insurance challenges, we have tax challenges, we have crime challenges. And then we have landlord-tenant compliance and regulatory challenges, right? And financing. We need to better understand financing options and expanding beyond local markets. If you're an investor, like you don't have to stay so local. Now you could be that out of state or maybe farther away investor by building out a power team. Travis, good morning and welcome. Brief overview, who you are, what you do, and thoughts to our discussion this morning. Real estate business challenges. Will you adapt or stay traditional?
Hey, good morning, everybody. Thanks, Joe. Yeah, I'm Travis. I have a real estate brokerage here in Houston market. We focus mainly on residential and commercial properties investing. And I also do a lot of property management, project management. Yeah, I was trying to remember what some billionaire guy that I read his book a while ago. I don't think it was Trump, but what that person said was that the majority of his deals were all done with people that he were friends with. And so, yeah, I guess all this, being on social media and blah, 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 and being an influencer can be a good thing. But, when I hear someone like that talk about making deals with people he's friends with, and just by going out to dinner with them once a month or once a quarter or out to lunch, that's the direction I'm going to go. I guess that's going to be the more traditional stuff. But I agree that, just to keep your business at the forefront where people see you and you get a lot of visibility on through Google searches and everything, you have to keep up with technology. I can tell from experience that, back in like 2008, 9, 10, before the cell phones really started taking off, I had built my own website for my business. It was called Woodlands Rentals because I live in the Woodlands. And, organically, I was in the top 3 on Google. You did a Google search for my area. Now, as people started going more and more towards cell phones, the traffic started to die down. But before that, it was huge. I mean, I would get thousands of leads a month just from my website. And, it was my own fault for not updating my website, but because I didn't keep up with technology, the leads kind of fizzled out. Now, should we keep up with technology if you're trying to drive leads through something like that, or TikTok or whatever? I agree. Yeah, we should keep up with technology, and I think technology is fun. I think it's fun to learn new technology. I think this AI stuff is really cool. What's going on where everything is moved to the cloud. Before, everything was client server based, and now we're all out in the cloud, and they're creating software as services. I was working in a startup in Austin in 2000, and we were right there off of 360 doing software as a service. That was a new thing back then, and now it's like everywhere, right? So this is great, man. I think it's awesome what technology is doing, but as far as creating relationships and doing deals with people, it's all about just hanging out with them, being friends with them. That's what I think.
So, Travis, there is quite a few attendees I met yesterday that are from your market, Houston, Texas. A lot of people came to Boston. It was very interesting. And I was asking, I said, listen, I'm on a podcast with a gentleman that's from Houston. How's the insurance going? They're like, oh my God. I mean, like, oh my, I hit all the pain points. I'm like, how's management going there? Oh, I said, how's vacancy? They're like, oh my gosh. Like one was in Spring, Texas, and another one was from, and I'm like, man, Travis ain't kidding. I said, you should come on our podcast. And I recommended him to come on. I said we have these discussions about owning real estate and being the investor friendly realtor or owner, and they're like, yeah, there's a lot of challenges and locally, and that's why we're here. We're just trying to find different ways to combine new with old. That's what they were saying. They know they need to modernize what they're doing.
Yeah, it's really cool, man. I think what we can do with technology now is amazing. I don't know if you guys have ever, maybe you haven't, but if you're kind of interested in technology, go play around on Zapier. You can create all kinds of stuff, make software talk to each other, and make things automate some processes that you're doing manually. It's really cool.
Well, I'll tell you, I
do that, but if you do, it's fun.
I asked everybody if they knew you, and I guess you're not that famous, because I did ask if they knew Travis Hood, and all they could tell me is they told me they found these pictures on Facebook sitting on a bench on a park. That's all they would tell me. They wouldn't tell me anymore. And maybe a picture of a steak. And I wasn't really sure if that was the same person, but it could be, right?
Yeah, that's right.
So Travis brought up some good points. In-person challenges. The one thing that Travis was saying, I mean, meeting and greeting people, right? The challenge is it's time intensive, and everybody's busy. So you got to kind of plant your seeds. Almost, I always look at networking as, do I network with the big events? Like NAR is a very big event. There's probably about 8,000 to 9,000 people here, not 12. They kind of exaggerated how many people were going to be here. I think it's about 8,000 to 9,000 people. Very well run, beautiful setting. Everybody's engaged. But the challenge is I'm meeting people cold. And most people don't know what asset-based lending is. So the challenge is when you're meeting in person, you got to kind of talk about what you offer and what you extend. They're like, oh, well, I think somebody does that down there, but are they a broker? Or are they what are you? Are you a traditional lender? I said, no, we're hedge fund money. There's no broker fees. There's no junk fees. So I got to go into a deeper discussion. And I've actually priced loans out with realtors at my table already in the past day and a half, which is really interesting because they're very solution oriented. They want to see what the results are right away. They don't want to wait till a phone call on Monday, which I was very impressed with the one-on-ones. And if once you put an application for somebody, you kind of like, it's not like I'm getting their social security number or date of birth, but I'm putting together a term sheet. You're already breaking barriers. Like they're already willing to reach back out to you. I already sent an email to a bunch of them, and I already had correspondences. So it's very unique to keep the skillet warm. Okay, you need to have a CRM, no matter what it is, whether it's HubSpot, Constant Contact, Mailchimp. I'm leaning toward the HubSpot. We're transitioning everything toward HubSpot right now. We're doing a major transition this week with Yardell, and we'll see what the audience reach looks like, because there's a text messaging component, there's an email component. The open rate for text messaging is near 100%, but you got to be careful. You don't want to abuse it either. And you got to depend, in person, you got to depend on personal energy and charisma. You got to be ready when you walk in. When it's social media, you could kind of handle it as you get it in doses. I went to an event the night before I left for Boston. I wasn't a fan. I'll be honest with you. I wasn't a fan of the individuals that were running the event. The company I really respect, but just whatever. We just don't have a love fest to one another. Believe that, right? But I made it work. I was very cordial and professional, but I met 6 to 10 people that I think will be impactful in continuous follow up. Already had a couple emails. I met a couple people that I hadn't seen in a couple years, and rekindled those relationships. That's very hard to do online. Rekindling relationships, coordinating events, being the coordinator event. If you need help in putting together an event wherever you are, I'm more than happy to help you with that. I mean, I've coordinated hundreds and hundreds of events. I've run hundreds of rehab construction tours for various organizations. And being consistent with your engagement and consistent with your follow-up. No, any busy person returns all emails and calls. Remember that. People that say they're busy I don't talk about being busy. I just talk about getting shit done. So I'm just a person that likes to complete things. I think that's the biggest challenge, whether you adapt to new or old. I think it's important that you adapt to being you in a consistent manner. Because really, right now at that convention today, the only competition I have today, tomorrow, all day is myself. There's nobody else to challenge me in what I do and who I am. And balancing authenticity with professionalism. There's a challenge and solution to that. You know, you got to have a unique brand voice and be consistent. Okay? You got to be personal and authentic. And standing out in a saturated market, I'm not the only lender in town, but I'm very consistent in what I do and providing insight and direction. I'm a big believer of education. And you know what? I did something differently, which I love doing new things to see if it works, and it did. So I teach this CE course on asset-based lending. I've never had a flyer put together. Oh, I had a flyer, but I would only put it out like on promotions. I actually printed out 300 copies in color and put a little sign to it. I've had 3 associations want to book me for that class. They're like, "Hey, do you charge?" I'm like, "No, it come out for free, and you get a title company or a property casualty insurance company to sponsor the food, and I'll come and teach the class." So guess what, guys? I'm going to Omaha, Nebraska. Okay, so kind of cool, but hey, I would have never had that if I didn't have that flyer on the table. Now I do. I'll always keep it there now because it's not about selling my service. It's about giving back in the sense of education. So what are you doing? What do you need to do differently to break out of your shell of the traditional and adapt to something new? Justin, good morning and welcome. Brief overview who you are, what you do, and thoughts to our discussion this morning. Real estate business challenges. Will you adapt or stay traditional? Justin, going once. Justin going twice. We'll come back to Justin. Stephen, good morning and welcome. Brief overview who you are, what you do, and thoughts to our discussion this morning. Real estate business challenges. Will you adapt or stay traditional?
Hey, thanks, Joe. Yeah, and thanks for being willing to come up for our event December 3rd up here in Dixon City. We're starting to get some signups, and really, since the election's over, we're going to push that hard. This is Steve. I'm with REI Homepage. I'm a broker and an investor, and we help guide people with solutions in their real estate fields and connect them with people. And I've always been a technology adapter. I had an early SaaS, before it was even SaaS, company back in the 2000s. And, you know, it really, you have to innovate faster and harder. What worked for me 2 years ago, frankly, doesn't anymore. We were pretty much all inbound leads, people just finding us. Now, you have to work a lot harder to get them come in and find new ways. But really, for me, the adoption of technology, I'm finally a late adopter to the, digital business card thing, where as soon as they scan or I scan their card or they scan mine, immediately it's in the CRM, immediately it's doing this, that, and the other thing. Actually, we're working on a couple technology development things for agents and wholesalers to streamline the experience for buyers and make it more efficient. But it really is about adapting to technology and adapting how you do it. And for me, it's getting out of the box. I'm not someone who's very social. I'm not someone that likes to do the networking stuff, but I'm making myself do more of it. But on the traditional side for me, that I think will never change, is the traditional side is the math always wins. It's not today's trend. It's not that. It's not that. If that deal is a good deal, in the traditional numbers, it's a good deal. A lot of people spent and did very well buying a lot of flashy Airbnb vacation homes. Well, if the market changes, then, what do you do with that? And I think it's wonderful. It's an area I don't know much about. But for me, I want to make sure that the numbers on the deal work. And that always comes back to tradition. I'm new to DSCR. Joe's kind of my first connection with that. And so to me, that's kind of innovative. Maybe it's not, but it seems to me. But basically, I think you have to adapt to technology, adapt to how you do things, to meet the generational gap. Those who like texting, those who don't. But the math, I think, always remains traditional, at least for me.
So, Steve, I got a couple questions for you. What has been challenging by what we met, right, through Mike at the event that I spoke at Mountaintop. So, what challenges have I provided to you where you feel like you've had a breakthrough as a real estate professional? This is not your first rodeo, right? So you're on here, you're kind of getting familiar with how a true balance sheet lender works with the questions and dialogue on structuring a deal. What do you see? What was your challenge, and then what do you see differently now in the last, say, couple months? Us kind of working together side by side a little bit here and there on event discussions and the podcast and things of that nature.
I think mostly for me, it's been the development of a more efficient, structured way of doing it. Well, other lenders, it's more about the story, it's more about the whatever. With the DSCR, the way you do things, it's much more right to the point. And because I want to get more into podcasts and I want to get more into events, kind of watching how you do the show, and kind of, doing this first event launch up in Dixon City, which is admittedly a very small thing, and I appreciate you doing it up. But it really, for me, it's been dialing into the efficiency and kind of watching how you structure the ability to respond to everyone. I was saying that to somebody, yesterday, that, for somebody who travels all over the country, yada, yada, you never miss the opportunity to follow up with everyone. And I still sit here, and honestly, I struggle to even make a portion of that. But that's one of, for me, the biggest, I guess, goals to sort of become is, okay, how do I make sure I make everyone feel like you're there for them. On the flip side is make it real quick. I have 5 questions for you. There's 2 answers to each question. Which one's your answer? Boom, done. That level of efficiency has really sped up the rest of my deal process. And I thought I had a pretty speedy and efficient deal process before, but dialing into those questions. And when you were at the Mike event in the event Mike and I did in Mountaintop, and you said, listen, every lender, when you peel back the curtain, does it on DSCR or something to that effect. And I kind of realized that. And I talked to some of my other lender friends. They're like, yeah, we basically do. I mean, we look at CAP, we look at whatever, but everybody looks at DSCR. And that was kind of like, okay, so this is what's behind the curtain. This is what they've never told you or never wanted you to know before. I don't know if it was ever hidden, but it was never obvious for me. So it's really been kind of watching your level of efficiency and watching how that level of efficiency can really become either it is easy for you now or you make it look easy, one of the two. So that's been the biggest thing, sort of turning up my level of efficiency, turning up my level of responsiveness, and being able to do more deals in the same amount of time.
Thank you, Steve. I really appreciate that. Came right. I can feel that came right from the heart. Like, hey, this is really what I've seen in front of me. And so I thank you for that. And real estate investors face a rapidly evolving landscape, and 2025 is likely to present a mix of economic and regulatory and market specific challenges. So you really have to. Hold on 1 second here. You got to really keep in mind interest rates are not going to suddenly go down to 5%. They're going to hover around in that 6-ish market right now. Okay, the Fed is not going to do any favors for Trump. Powell's already being adversarial. Okay, so you could already see he's not in a good spot. He's in the corner. So it'll be very interesting how the Fed, the market, and Trump complement one another. But to Trump's advantage, because now looks like he has Senate and House to get things done based on his agenda. And you got some pretty strong people coming in behind him, like Vance, Kennedy, Tulsi Gabbard, you got Vivek, you got Elon. It'll be very interesting to see this new dynamic because you're really bringing AI and traditional to the front line, bringing Elon and Trump into the front line. It'll be very interesting to see how this all comes together. And remember, rising construction and maintenance costs are not going away. The solution here, maybe as an investor, you should focus on properties that are relatively in okay condition, avoiding major renovations, and build a team of trusted contractors and suppliers to negotiate better rates. Additionally, investors may consider preferring stabilized assets. I'm seeing more investors buying turnkey and looking at the bigger picture on cash return. You got to also be concerned with market saturation in high demand areas. People want to get out of the urban settings. It's a fact. It's mass exodus. Okay, suburban settings and even rural settings are becoming more popular. I really hope asset-based lending starts recognizing rural designated areas. It's very challenging to get around that. And then the biggest thing is evolving tenant expectations and regulations as landlords. You know, just suddenly because everything looks more on the Republican side doesn't mean all these states are going to concede and make it very easy for landlords. That's just not going to happen overnight. Okay, or a balancing act as well. And technology, like Amy is always doing something, talking about something relative to technology or AI. If you're not following her on LinkedIn and all her podcasts and her discussions and her one-on-ones, you're missing out on grabbing onto one golden nugget that might apply to what you do as well. We're definitely looking at a market correction, and how that falls in line is going to be challenging for some and exciting for others. I mean, I'm looking forward to some foreclosures because there's going to be opportunities in the asset-based lending space where a traditional lender can't even tie in. But I'm also noticing one big thing when it comes to property management and construction, and nobody's talking about this, is labor shortages. Where are we going to get the labor for property management and maintenance and construction that drive that? Because this is going to drive up costs and slow down timelines for repairs, renovations, or tenant services. Building a strong, reliable contractor relationship is key. Implementing technology to streamline property management and maintenance. Automation tools like digital leasing and platforms and property maintenance apps can help reduce the labor burden on property managers and streamline operations. Like, I'm working with one client specifically. He plans on buying 125 properties next year. He's got a 30-man crew in construction renovation, but he's still always looking for a painter. He's still always looking for a structural engineer. He's still always looking for an architect. I mean, there's always different challenges that he needs to find to keep those guys working and completing, their projects. Amy, any follow-up feedback in regards to real estate business challenges? Will you adapt or stay traditional?
Yeah, I wanted to, so the luxury of being the chair of the PropTech Council, obviously, is that I get to be on the forefront of seeing all the new tech that's coming out. And I will say that it's just in the next real estate boom, all of those shortages that you were talking about are going to become huge pain points, right? Appraisers are going to be a huge pain point. We don't have enough of them. We're going to have, obviously the labor shortages in the trades have only exacerbated since I was a general contractor. I remember back in 2012 trying to find labor, right? And it was just horrible. Like it would flux, and where you could find people, you didn't find people, and it just depended on how. A market can get easily saturated with jobs, and there not be enough labor. So, but what I think is going to happen is there's a lot of valuation tools out coming now, and my question was going to be around: do you think the lenders will finally accept something that's not from an appraiser? I mean, that's who's going to determine whether appraisers stay or go. Is if the lending community will accept like a valuation from an AI, right? Or evaluation from something else other than an appraiser that's been certified. That's one. And then as far as the labor shortages go, there are, no joke, tons and tons of more robots and drones being developed right now that will probably, hopefully help in that arena. I'm already seeing them, robots around that can do like EFIS work, right? So they can do like the exterior paneling work. There's robots that can do inspections now. Drones that can do inspections, like remote inspections where you don't have to be on site. You can just send out a drone and somebody in a computer can look and do an assessment, and you can get inspections done faster. There's just a lot of technology that's coming out, and in the next year or so, it'll become more and more prevalent. But I wanted to get back to I answered two things, but about the appraiser thing, I think that's going to be super key in any sort of real estate transaction going forward. Is if they'll accept another valuation tool. I don't know if that'll happen or not. I just want to get your thoughts on it.
Yeah, I'm gonna give you my opinion. You know what opinions are like, Amy, right? Everybody has one. So I still think there's going to be a problem not fit the physical in-person appraisal in the investment space. I think because there's a trust factor or an integrity factor that's not there that they're concerned about. That this whole wavering of appraisal and using a desktop, it's going to be hard to sell the paper to the secondary market is my concern. Okay.
Okay.
And another challenge is rural designation, the USDA. If the address pops up on USDA, it's going to be very challenging. But this is the thing that's changing because of the hybrid work environment. So I think you have a better chance of seeing USDA being recognized in asset-based lending than desktop appraisal being accepted in asset-based lending. Does that make sense? First, right?
Yeah. I mean, no, I got it. I mean, because no joke. I mean, rural, there's just not enough data points for you to make an appraisal, right?
Correct.
Like everybody's just realized that fact, right? I mean, I know I used to buy in secondary markets and tertiary markets all the time, and it was very difficult to do appraisals. They were having to pull things from 50 miles away because they just didn't have anything that was close enough, right?
Yeah.
So that was just out of necessity. I just think as the data gets better and better,
Yeah.
It might be where they don't need an appraiser rate, but it's all going to be based on there's more and more data tools coming out now. CoStar isn't the big dog anymore. There's more and more data that's actually becoming more readily available, and I think what's missing is the data that my company will eventually provide is all the building data, right? I mean that's the one missing piece. Nobody has the actual building data to understand building performance and what's actually truly the deferred maintenance and what's actually the true status of that building. And so that's why I'm excited about this whole.
So I feel that they're going to put out the robot play in the construction side.
Oh yeah.
To replace union labor very soon. I think that's within the next 24 months. I've seen some of the models. It's pretty damn scary. I feel like I'm watching Will Smith and I Robot. Okay.
Yeah.
So the way that they're mobile, I mean, they don't need breaks. They don't need to complain. They work 12-hour shifts, and then you put a plug back in them. Okay. So I think you're going to see that transition. I think it's going to take about at least 24 to 36 months to see how this political party handles the government over the next 4 years. I think by year 2 or 3, I think we probably will see some form of transition because of the inventory back on the market because of the commercial reset and hopefully a reset in the housing market because the properties just can't keep going up. Okay, so that's numerically impossible. So already title is almost to the point of AI. Like you don't even need a title rep almost at this point. Like you need a mobile notary. So that's already going to be completely AI. I mean, 100% probably in the next 12 months. So I would say 24 months out, it'll be interesting to see what they do with appraisals. 36 months out, 24 months is 36 months out. Same thing with construction with robots. Another thing with rural, as we change from urban, because I've had appraisals say suburban and the market was designated USDA. So there's definitely still some crossover happening. And then the next biggest thing that I think is going to be a challenge, which you might agree with me, Amy, maybe not, is modular because in new construction there's a draw schedule and there's a construction budget. A lender can't get their head wrapped around the modular because everything comes in everything's delivered. You know what I mean? And then now you're stacking, and you're just connecting the pipes. So I think there's a challenge with that, but I think that's going to be an easier challenge because it costs the same, but it's about time, the timing.
Yeah.
I mean, you could have a house up in, a month instead of 6 months.
Right.
So,
and then even 3D printing.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, they're going to have to get used to new forms of construction technology and then the speed with it. So the bank has to be prepared that whatever they have withheld and reserved, it's going to be out the door in 30, 45 days. Right. It's going to be gone. Like you can't. It's not going to be where you can piecemeal it out and be okay with. The inspection process is going to change. Right. It's just going to be different. And then But any of those technologies, like if you're doing modular with SIP panels or you do a modular with any sort of, the insurance cost will eventually reduce, right? Because they're going to be so constructed so much better that the insurance companies also have to catch up and not stop pricing them the same way, because they're not built like stick built, and they have, higher fire ratings, and they have better installation ratings, and they're better built. And so it's interesting for sure.
Yeah, I mean, it's not the same 30 years ago when they put these modulars up and it looked like they were like sheds made by the Amish. You know what I mean? Like it's just different. So there's definitely over the next 36 months, because of what we have in front of us with modern technology and traditional values in the political offices, it'll be interesting to see where this all steers. It's not going to be listen, some people are going to have a rough time with it. Okay. I think departments are going to get minimized. We got to get inflation under control. Okay. We're not out of the woods yet. There's been a lot of inflation created because of big government. We got to get back to smaller government. We need more transparency and access to accurate data, which I would agree with. But then we have, the volatility and economic uncertainty. There's a lot of pissed off people, so they might try to throw a monkey in the wrench because they're just pissed off. We still have limited housing inventory and high prices. We have regulatory and compliance challenges. I mean, all this ties into property management and talent. The burden falls on the property management company. If your plan is to buy 30 properties, you're hiring a property manager. You're not managing yourself. I just don't see it numerically possible. Justin, good morning. Thank you for your patience. Brief overview: who you are, what you do, thoughts to our discussion, real estate business challenges. Will you adapt or stay traditional? Justin going once. I know he's driving, so we'll try to get him on here. Justin going once, going twice. I'll come back to Travis. Travis, a lot of chatter here and banter. What's your thoughts on, our discussion here with Amy, myself, Steve?
Yeah, what you just said, Joe, about the challenges as far as having the resources, it's totally true, man. Like, I'm constantly looking for a new set of painters, a new AC installation guy, or whatever. And thank God for groups like, on Facebook, where all these contractors that are somewhat technical hang out, and I can find people there and give them a try. So yeah, that's going to constantly be part of the challenges. Like, I can tell you with my properties that I have over in Mobile, Alabama, man, that's the biggest challenge ever. It's like, don't you guys have any guys here that do anything that's, that are worth anything? Like, there's just not enough people over there doing construction work or doing good construction work.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, that's going to continuously be a challenge. I think it would be really good to, put together a crew of your own that you're paying by the hour, by the week, or something, and that you can have a little bit more control over, who's going to be working on your projects, and that would solve some of the challenges. But it's just putting that crew together, right? So
yeah,
finding the people, training them, putting them through training. I'm actually a little bit. I'm kind of hopeful for the next generation. My son is 18, and him and his buddies, they love to work on cars. Like, wow, how about that? So we might have a new group of tuners and mechanics coming up.
From your mouth to God's ears.
Yeah.
Travis, you don't think the whole thing with the iPhone is just diminish anybody that wants to go out there and break a sweat? So,
yeah.
I mean, I don't know. I've never seen less people argue at a bus stop of kids in my life. I walk by, they're not even looking up. They're all looking at the phone like it's on their nose. Like, what kind of person are they going to be at 20? Are they going to really want to hit a hammer with it on a nail? I just don't see it. You know what I mean?
No. And I've anyways, here in the Houston market, it's probably similar in Austin where Amy is. We have a lot of Hispanic labor, and
yeah,
they're the majority of the guys that are doing all the work.
Yeah.
So the good thing is, they keep teaching their children how to do the same thing.
Exactly.
So at least here we have a good labor force.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the Latin market is gonna. I think is gonna pretty much encompass the construction industry over the next 5 years, no doubt. I think that's nationally, Travis. I don't think that's just going to be in Texas. I think a good Latin crew of sheetrockers or framers or roofers. I mean, they're very valuable. I mean, I got this Latin group that takes care. It's like I have a boy band that comes over and plays music and busts out a renovation on a house. That's what it sounds like. You know what I mean? It used to be where they used to pick up labor along the train stations and stuff, and you nod at a bunch of guys and see if they're working, want to work that day. Now they have their own vans, they have their own trucks. They're not standing at the train station anymore. They're formalizing. So I think you're right. I think you got to get a little more creative. The group that I work with out of the South Jersey market, they own a lumber yard. They own a Trex distributorship. So they're meeting contractors on a daily basis. But some of the basic stuff they still can't identify. They burn through painters for some reason. They can't find. Nobody wants to paint, or if they do, they're good for 3 jobs and then they disappear. I don't know what that's all about. But it's interesting to see because we also want some work-life balance, right? I mean, as real estate professionals, you don't want to. I mean, listen, I'm up here in Boston with my wife, and we're having a great time. But I mean, what if she didn't come? Then I don't see her for 3 days. So the same thing. Like I was in Cincinnati last week. It didn't sound so exciting to her. She likes Boston, the sound of Boston a little differently. So, how do you balance things out doing property management, sales, and acquisition for others? How do you balance that out with life?
That's not easy, dude. I can tell you that I work a lot, but like today we're gonna go drive to the hill country to go on a hike.
Good.
So just taking a day or a couple days to do stuff like that is really important. But during the week, it's busy. That's for sure.
I get it. Well, thank you for being on here and taking the time with us this morning. Steven, your final thoughts to real estate business challenges. Will you adapt or stay traditional?
Yeah, I think that my final thoughts on this is that a lot of it's going to depend, like the technology stuff, so the robots for drywalling and so forth. It's going to take that a long time to come through a local market like this. I think it also depends how much you adapt, and by adapt I mean technology. You have to adapt to the different market realities every day. Is also going to depend on what sector you're in. Like I think it was Amy said, if you're a small landlord, couple dozen units, and you're the sort of do-it-yourself kind of person, okay, you can probably get away with maybe having a rent friend or one of those basic softwares. If you're looking to be an innovative, developer of land, or you're looking to be a bigger property manager, you got to get a lot more fancy. I mean, for me, the adapting for me is coming in the marketing side of things, coming in and having to get up, having to get more organized and get more technology, like to do things like my NAR database list and reaching out. And really, but it also stays traditional, the networking and the handshaking and the remembering who the different players are and staying on their radar. That's been true, I think, since our great-great-grandfathers. If people remember you exist, they can work with you. So I think it's using technology to make the traditional easier, I guess, is kind of what I'm getting at, is my sort of balance in a lot of this.
Thank you, Steve. And and Steve brought up something before. Listen, I want everybody to be a very intelligent real estate professional. I appreciate the stories, but at the end of the day, you need to be able to bullet point whatever you're trying to get across, because people are so consumed with being consumed. You got to get what you need to across to someone and get it done. Time is a value to everyone, including yourself. So, navigating the real estate industry challenges requires adaptability, resilience, and a proactive approach. While some obstacles, like market volatility or regulatory changes, may feel beyond our control, many of the most pressing issues can be managed by combined tech-savvy solutions with a commitment to client-centered service and strategic diversification. I think all these points that were brought up today are very important to embrace and take on one, a little of the old and a little of the new. There's nothing wrong with combining both. And I think that's what we're trying to get across today in our podcast this morning. I want to thank our sponsors, Mr. Yardall Perkins of Perkatech, MB Capital, your unsecured business line of credit program, Realty 4-in-1 with Linda Pelagas, and Lendmark, your asset-based lender nationwide for real estate professionals throughout the country. We're here every Saturday morning, 8 a.m., which we'll be finishing up that, wrapping that day up next week. We'll be strictly on Sundays, 9 o'clock going forward, post November 17th. So we got one more today. Tomorrow we got 9:30 a.m. and then next Sunday 9:30 a.m. and then we go to 9 a.m. every Sunday morning till 10:30, 10, depending on where the feel of the room is. I want to thank all the moderators this morning. And my quote this morning is, repeat after me. This will be my season of money, love, progress, and joy. Affirm yes. I'll be ending the room in the next 30 seconds, and thank you very much and have a great day.